Rosaline Pansoy from the Elementary Guidance. To start, may I encourage everyone to pay attention to the screen for the invocation, followed by the Philippine National Anthem.
Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to meet together. Please help us to come together to make this institution reflect your kingdom. Breathe life into our ideas and decisions. Help us build a team that has love and respect at its heart. Give us the strength to continue working for your kingdom in this time of pandemic. Lord, come give us the inspiration to be the best we can be. May we be a shining example of your goodness and truth within, wherever we are. Inspire our thoughts, discussions, and ideas, and continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth for the greater glory of you. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
World Mental Health Day has the purpose to raise awareness of mental health issues around the world and to mobilize efforts in support of mental health. With this, the University of Southern Philippines Foundation and the Guidance and Testing Service Center offers USPNs this free webinar. This shall provide an opportunity for all, like students, teachers, staff, parents, and even families in working on mental health issues and how to talk about them. Now, may I please welcome on this virtual stage our supportive Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Ernesto L. Alolor, for his welcome address.
Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to this morning's event, which I believe is part of the global observance of the Mental Health Month. We appreciate this initiative by our Guidance and Testing Services Center, aptly entitled Our Minds, Our Rights, Fostering a Culture of Mental Wellness. Our individual and collective mental well-being, as well as our physical, spiritual, and social well-being, is of utmost importance to all of us. Our total well-being should be everyone's priority. However, our mental well-being should be our utmost priority. Our physical well-being will be of no consequence to us if our mental faculties do not function properly as expected they should. If our mental capacity is impaired, it follows necessarily that all our other bodily functions may not properly work as they are intended to. Hence, it is essential that we be mindful of our mental health or wellness while also being mindful of our other beings, our physical, our spiritual, and our social beings. It is essential that we keep a balance between and among our beings. It is essential that we be mindful not only of our individual and personal well-being, but also of the well-being of others around us, our families, our friends, our peers, our classmates, our colleagues, as well as those whose lives and ours cross paths. It is essential that we care for not only of our own self-well-being, but we should also care for the well-being of others, significant, or otherwise. And if we do, indeed, we shall be fostering a culture not only of mental wellness, but we shall be fostering a culture of total wellness, mental, physical, spiritual, and social wellness. Let me share these quotes and perhaps we can reflect on them. First is from Noam Spencer, who says, and I quote, mental health is not a destination, but a process. It's about how you drive, not where you are going, end quote. The second one is from Mel Robbins, who says, and I quote, your mental health is everything. Prioritize it. Make the time like your life depends on it, because it does. Unquote. The third quote is from Matt Haig, and he says, and I quote, mental health problems do not define who you are. They are something you experience. You walk in the rain and you feel the rain, but you are not the rain. Unquote. The last quote is from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and she says, and I quote, the most beautiful people we have known are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known struggle, known loss, and have found their way out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and a deep, loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen, unquote. Let us all be mindful of our total whole being wellness. Let us be mindful not only of our own wellness, but be mindful of the wellness of others. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you so much, Doc Alalor, for the insightful welcome. As quoted by Doc Alalor, we should be mindful of our mental well-being, but not also just our mental well-being, but also our physical, spiritual, and social well-being. For mental health is an overall capacity of our person. And also, when we are mindful, it creates a wholesome concept for our mental health also. Now, may I call our college guidance officer, Ms. Klein A. Ralios, to give an introduction to our resource speaker for today's webinar.
Hello, so good morning, everyone. Our resource speaker for today is a licensed psychologist with concentration on clinical psychology in private practice. He earned his degrees on Master of Arts in Clinical Psychology at the University of San Carlos and Doctor of Philosophy in Clinical Psychology at the Silliman University. He is the managing partner and resident clinical psychologist at Rainbow Playroom Psychological Services, consultant psychologist in several corporations, a clinical supervisor, and a former graduate school faculty member teaching abnormal psychology, clinical psychology, counseling, and psychotherapy in the University of San Carlos. He is a certified clinical anxiety and trauma treatment professional level 2 and a certified specialist in employee assistance clinical. Before entering the field of psychology, for 8 years, he worked as a development professional for community development and behavioral change under UNICEF, Global Funds, UNFPA, United States Peace Corps Philippines, and the Cebu provincial government. His research engagements and interests focused on leadership, program of intervention design, and behavioral risk and change management. He received several institutional awards such as Outstanding Cebuano Youth Leader and Outstanding Youth Volunteer in Central Visayas. He uses psychobiography as an overarching mode of therapy and utilizes techniques from therapeutic approaches such as art, symbol works, play, hypnotherapy, and CBT, SFBT, and NRT in helping clients to heal and discover themselves. He is a member of the Philippine Association for Child and Play Therapy and Psychological Association of the Philippines. He receives local and international clinical supervision and mentoring. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Dr. Enrique Felisario II.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Miss Chilin, for that very
Yes,
um, kind and uh, very generous introduction. Uh, Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining. Thank you for coming. I also would like to thank first the entire USPF team, family for organizing this and for inviting me once again to share my learning and experiences. Uh, I and especially to Dr. Ernesto Alor, to Dr. Miriam Toletacue, and uh, and Mr. Charles Baguio for this and the entire guidance counselors in the university. I will be sharing a uh, my slides there. Just checking. Can you see my slides?
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Riza. All right, and then I would like to encourage everyone that if you have questions from time to time, if you have thoughts, realizations maybe, or feelings and opinions along the way, um, please use our chat box to type those in, and moderators, the guidance counselors will facilitate those because I really want to capture those because those are very, very important. Now, our title for the webinar today is Our Mind, Our Rights, Fostering a Culture of Mental Wellness. This is very, very timely, especially in our unprecedented time lately. If you notice, things have been very, very challenging. A lot of changes, a lot of challenges, a lot of confusions and uncertainties happening not only in our individual lives, in the communities, locally, nationally, especially internationally. So our mind is our right. And how do we foster a culture of mental wellness? So it's also very timely because this month we are celebrating the World Mental Health Day. In fact, it's not only Mental Health Day, but it is actually a mental health month now. Uh, why is that? Because the celebration stretch in the entire month, to capture really everything because there's really a lot of things to do. So to the theme for this year is mental health is a universal human right. So first, we've been listening to this term mental health, but what does it really mean? Uh, so for us to have a common ground of understanding and a framework to use to understand mental health, the World Health Organization provided a generally accepted definition of what mental health is. And according to the WHO, it is actually a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make contributions to his or her community. Now, if we are going to summarize the definition of mental health, basically, mental health is about how we are doing in terms of our thoughts, what we are thinking lately, how we are feeling, how we are behaving, and how we are using our thoughts, feelings, and behavior to realize, achieve our potentials or what we would like to become. And as we are doing, as we are achieving this, and when we are experiencing challenges or stressors, then we can cope with this. And then if we can achieve our goals, then we can become productive and contribute to the community where we are in. And that includes our family or to our loved ones. And then if we expand that to our community, then to our entire uh, humanity, no? So that's mental health. So when you say it is a basic human right, a universal human right, it talks about that we have the right to our well-being. It is inalienable. It cannot be taken away from us. Whatever is the reason, whatever is condition, it cannot be taken from us. That we are to make sure that our well-being is, number one, protected from discrimination. So there are a lot of laws later on that we will be highlighting that provides protection, that one cannot be, that our mental health condition cannot be used against us, like removing us from work or school. Uh, in fact, as part of the protection, when there are a lot of policies already that when we are experiencing the psychological, emotional, or behavioral difficulties, is actually protected by in terms of making sure that nothing, no consequences is going to be incurred against us. So there's protection. Another one is freedom, that we can actually, the freedom to choose, the freedom to be who we are, the freedom to express ourselves. No? And then as a basic human right, there is now the availability of our services. So it's available, and if it's available, we can access it. So no services, no mental health services can be denied to us when we are in need. I'd like to share a bit on this. Although I am a private practitioner, meaning to say that I have my own clinic, and when people come to us and they would say, they cannot afford it or whatever, because being a mental health professional, it's a helping profession. We do not actually deny service. In fact, there are a lot of pro bono cases that we are handling. So that still cannot be denied, provided that the it's also available. Because sometimes, not really sometimes, to be honest, just to share with you, lately there's since the pandemic, since the COVID-19 pandemic, there has been really a surge of cases related to mental health uh, in the country and even around the world. So again, I just like to highlight mental health is a universal human right, inalienable, cannot be taken away from you, cannot be used against you, and you will have protection, freedom to avail and access services. Right? So why is it that lately mental health has been very, very popular um, conversation uh, in our world? Now, in the Philippines, for example, although we have difficulties, we have challenges, and still an area to improve, we would say that so far we were able to, national and international agencies were able to get data as to provide us with a picture of what is happening in our country in terms of any concerning mental health. So as of uh, the year 2020, that's 2 years ago, about more than 3.6 million Filipinos are actually suffering from at least one kind of mental disorder, at least one kind. Okay, this is according to the WHO and the Department of Health. In the Western Pacific region, if I'm not mistaken, that is composed of 16 countries. The Philippines, among the 16 countries, actually ranks third in highest rate of mental health problems. So we are at the third in terms of mental health problem. In the Philippines, if in our own country, mental illness is the third most common disability, with about approximately 6 million Filipinos are suffering from depression and or anxiety. The rate of suicide is at 3.2 per 100,000 in our population, with incidence being higher among males compared to females. So mas daghan ang lalaki kaysa babae, no? And then still, it would remain that our crucial barrier for the among us Filipinos in achieving improved mental health is still poor health-seeking behavior. It is embedded in our culture, actually, that as long as we can still manage it, we can still sustain it, or kaya pa, laban lang, then we will not go to a professional. In fact, not only in the mental health, even in the medical, even for medical conditions, we only go to Filipinos generally would only seek a professional help when they could no longer manage it. I think it has something to do with the economic background of our fellow Filipinos. Now, 3.6 million Filipinos suffering from at least one kind of mental disorder. Approximately 6 million Filipinos are suffering from depression and or anxiety. I would like to highlight that this data is based only on those individuals who went to the government and government allied or affiliated clinics. You know, they submitted themselves, and then they were counted as part of the data. I would like to share with you that we are only looking at the tip of the iceberg. In fact, in my personal opinion, working in the clinic as a clinician, I would say that this is, in my estimate, this would be about times 10 in actuality, or even more than that, no? Even more than that, because there are still a lot of Filipinos who are not accessing mental health services for a lot of reasons. So when we say fostering a culture of mental health, we are to understand first that the definition of culture would mean that culture is a generally accepted and expected way of life. So, meaning to say that because it's generally accepted and expected way of life, when we say Cebuanos, for example, we already know what kind of identity or what kind of behavior and values that they have, no? Modesty aside, Cebuanos are known as the intellectual individuals, very logical, kind, no? That's one. And then when we talk about generally Filipinos, we are known for being family oriented, religious, and we are also known be to be very warm or hospitable to other people. No, that's culture, a way of life. It is a collective identity as well as knowledge, belief, art, laws, customs, capabilities and habits of individuals in the societies, right? So culture, again, is a generally accepted and expected way of life. It somehow provides us who we are. We will connect this later on. So when we talk about fostering a culture of mental well-being, meaning to say we would like to develop a generally accepted and expected way of life, practicing, supporting, improving mental health or mental well-being, um, meaning to say that if there is any concern or related needs to mental health, we have a collective identity or way of doing and understanding, approaching this area. So for us to foster or develop this kind of culture, there are actually three elements that we can actually do. Number one, it's promoting awareness. So we would like to inform, educate people on mental health. Then secondly, we would like to provide support. We would like to provide support. That means the availability and accessibility of the services. There are policies, laws that are being enacted by the government and by institutions like the USPF, and other schools, and even the workplace, that provide support whenever there is a concern related to mental health. And lastly, fostering an environment where individuals will feel safe and encouraged to prioritize their mental well-being. Meaning to say that in an environment, we are referring to even classroom, schools, our family, when there is mental health difficulty, and we're talking about emotional, behavioral, um, interpersonal, or relational difficulties, the kind of environment we are in, number one, protects that. Make sure that you are safe. It's not taken against you. There's no consequences because just because you are experiencing a mental health condition. You would feel safe. Then there is a support to make sure that you can cope, respond, and grow from the condition, right? So if we look at it, the fostering of the mental health, the culture of a mental um, well-being, it's a bottom-up process, meaning to say that it would start from the bottom, from the self, and then when individuals are aware, more developed, are practicing mental health, taking care of the self and taking care of others, are advocating, asserting their need for mental health services as a basic universal right, then it can create a rippling effect that it can go to the localities, to the regional, national, and then even to the international. And like Plato said, that the whole is of necessity prior to its part. Then the international, national, and even local government and organizations could create systems and laws to make sure that these are promoted, protected, and taken care of. So let's talk about, in so far, how are we doing in fostering, in developing a culture of mental health uh, well-being. Now, internationally, there are a lot of international organizations already that our country is a member of or a signatory, meaning we agreed to it, therefore we will implement it in our place, in our country. So we already have the World Health Organization, We have the International Human Rights Council, the Convention on the Rights of the Children, the United Nations, and the international humanitarian organizations who are promoting, providing support, protecting um, our rights, and even providing funding and programs related to mental health. So internationally, it's already available. It's there. And I'm just mentioning um, very few examples, key examples of the international level that have developed already to create uh, a culture of mental well-being. Now let's go to the Philippines. Nationally, in the Philippines, our government has enacted laws like the Republic Act 9258, the Guidance and Counseling Law, the RA 11036, the Mental Health Act. We also have the psychology law, um, the first in Asia, actually, if I have not mistaken, that our psychologists here are licensed in the Philippines. And then we have constitutional human rights, no? And then that provides protection, equal protection and promotion of our mental health. And because of the laws that have been created, we actually have now National Center for Mental Health, who's who's in charge of developing programs nationally to for mental health related developments. We also have hotlines for any crisis or in to prevent for suicide prevention. And um, there's been a lot of statistics that would say that there has been a drastic increase and supported calls just because of the presence of our crisis hotlines. We also have mental council for mental health. We have Psychological Association of the Philippines, the Philippine Guidance and Counseling Association. The government has allocated budgets for mental health, and comparatively in the past 10 years, 5 to 10 years, this budget for mental health, although still challenged, it's already increasing, meaning to say that the government really is giving more attention in promoting uh, the culture of mental well-being. And we have anti-discrimination law, uh, and then there's mental health policies from the in there are also mental health policies in school, in the workplace, and local government units. In fact, for I'd like to highlight this for workplaces, the Department of Labor and Employment has issued orders to for companies to develop systems that will promote, protect mental health conditions. The most popular program for this is called EAP, or Employment Assistance Program. And it says that no employee and even students can be removed from the school or from the workplace just because one is experiencing mental health related condition. All possible options and help are given, exhausted, to make sure that it is protected. Until then, no, until then. So nationally, there are a lot of progress already. Now locally, we're talking about, especially here in Cebu, we also have our hotlines already, no? We have Paglaom, among other things. In Cebu, I noticed that the mental health advocacies, information, education campaign, or IEC, are so vibrant, no? In a lot of sectors, school, community, barangay level, government, religious, everywhere, there's just a movement for mental health. And then there's school-based mental health movements also. Like one of the schools that I really admire is the USPF, because the guidance counselors and the the peer facilitators or the advocates are so active and equipped in providing really support for mental health related concerns. And one of the examples of this is that this webinar. Now, in fact, early this year, um, and there have been a lot of um, series of talks, webinars in person and online to promote support mental health related concerns. I remember the USPF president even said that making sure that mental health related talks or interventions are done regularly, scheduled periodically. No? So there are a lot of equipped and responsive task force already. Government and private mental health clinics are available also here in in Cebu. You can go to Soto and among other areas. Then there are also a lot of local adaptations of mental health national organizations and laws. So there are local chapters and laws are also adapted as um, ordinances to customize it based on the kind of culture uh, and needs that our locality have. Now, most importantly, because we are highlighting that fostering a culture of mental health, mental well-being is a bottom-up approach. We're saying that we would like to give more highlight in the self area. Okay, so lately, I just like to give you a quick update on the self area, on the individual area. Lately, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, there has been a significant, profound development in terms of the knowledge, attitude, and practices of the individuals towards mental health. And what do you mean by this? That it has improved. Before, it was very much focused on the disease model, meaning to say that if we talk about mental health, psychologists, psychiatrists, guidance counselors, we're referring only to individuals with mental health conditions. Quote unquote, and this is very wrong to use, and just an example, we they call it that the mental health is para lang sa mga buang, but actually no, that's a very very old very old ancient perspective. No more. We have seen that this has evolved already from a disease to well-being model, that people would go to mental health centers, to professionals, not because they're crazy or buwang sila, but because they want to discover themselves. They want to grow. They want to learn how to better manage, respond to conditions. And we're talking about mental health now, and I'm pretty sure you guys are not, crazy. So mental health is not for those with disorders only. It's very much also for those individuals, me and you, everyone, who would like to discover more of ourselves, develop our strength, become a better version of our self. Now, there's also an increasing number of individuals accessing mental health services. In fact, the mental health professionals now are so overwhelmed that we have really a flood of individuals wanting to access it. Just to share with you, it's kind of challenging because every psychologist, guidance counselors, psychiatrist could only see a maximum of 4 or 5 individuals a day, because it takes really a lot of process. It's 50 to 60 minutes of listening to the pain and working things out. So there's really a limit of that, and the Philippines is still, improving in that area. We have very limited number of mental health professionals, but we're working on it slowly. So maybe it would be a bias to say that if you are taking BS psychology, or you're about to graduate senior high, study more on, choose psychology and become a psychologist, or a guidance counselor, and join the fun, colorful field of mental health professional, helping others. Right now, a lot of young people I noticed in the clinic, in my experience, the young people are the one asserting for their needs for mental health. Every time I asked, what helped you, what brought you here, or what prompted you to be here, they would always the parents would always say that my child, my son, my daughter is the one actually requesting for them to, be in a session to avail. Very good, very good. So they're the one asserting, because in reality, the adults, mm, some adults may still have some difficulties uh, grasping, or shifting perspective in terms of mental health. But our young people, aware, knowledgeable as they are of the well-being model now, they're the one who's educating their parents, the adults, that it's for the self, it's for taking care of the self. So a lot of young people. And here's a thing I noticed this last month, that actually, among mostly for junior high, having a therapist, it's actually a fad. Before, we would like to hide it. Like, they don't want to talk about it. They would say, they would deny, hide that they are seeing a therapist. But now, young people are always telling me that they're always quoting their therapist, saying that, oh, my therapist said this, my therapist said that. So it's a fad. It's like, it's a thing. And I take that as an indication that there's now uh, a growing acceptance of seeing a therapist among young people, right? Before, we would always say, take care of yourself, take care of yourself. But now, we would like to say, I will take care of me for you, and you take care of yourself for me. So taking care of the self is actually the greatest gift that we can give to our loved ones, for a lot of reasons. Because when we take care of ourselves, we can take care of others. When we take care of ourselves, we can be a good role model that help others to also learn to take care of themselves. So the self is for others. Now, how do we take care of ourselves then for others? As a foundation in developing a culture of mental well-being. Now, we have we have each of us, we have this, what we call an individual unique life manual, like how to in our life. So this, each of us, we have this life manual, and it's always developing, and it contains our interpretations of the world, how we are interpreting our events, our experiences. It contains different perspectives or looking at things. It contains how to feel about something, or how not to feel about something. It contains how we are going to behave, okay, and how we are responding to situations. So that's why it's very unique, and this is how we learn from it, and how we are going to feel, think, behave, interpret whatever situations we are in. We have our individual unique life manual. And sometimes we don't agree on others' manual. Like why would they do that? Because they have a different manual, right? Now, how is this developed? Our individual unique life manual. So since the moment we are born, we are receiving already informations, a lot of informations from our experiences, our learnings, our parents who are teaching us something, and how we are interacting with others, how we are observing others, the adults, especially that we learn best by example. No? And this is called cognitive social learning uh, process or theory, that we learn best by observing. So that's why I said it's important that we take care of ourselves for others, because people are looking at us. Now, in our unique life manual, we do things over and over again. Notice that whatever you do, the moment you sleep until you go to bed, and then until you go back to it, and how you are interacting with everyone, responding to things, it's done repetitively. It's done over and over and over and over again. Why is that? Because we are animals of habit. And then whatever we do over and over again, it becomes familiar to us. And even other people are familiar to us. No? Like um we would we would always say, kailan na kay kunin mo. That's actually familiarity. I know this is what's going to happen. That's based on familiarity. And if it's familiar, we can actually predict it. We can predict when our teacher is going to approve something or disapprove something. We can even predict when our, you know, um, friends or parents or family or anyone around us would do or not to do something. Because why? Because we're familiar to them. We've been exposed to them. Okay. And they're part of our life manual. We are there. Now, if it's familiar and if it's predictable, then we will have a sense of control, because it's already in our manual, life manual, like how to. So therefore, it's predictable. We know what's going to happen. We know how to interpret it. We know how to feel about it and behave towards it. And because of that, then we feel safe, because we know how to understand, feel, behave towards it. We can predict it. We feel safe towards it. Now, when COVID-19 pandemic happened, a lot of the things in our manual drastically changed. A lot of it changed. Our environment, how we learn, almost everything changed. So meaning, a lot of the things actually went out from our manual. And because we don't know how to interpret, feel, behave, respond to these changes, it makes us feel stressful. Okay? And stress is defined as a demand that goes beyond our personal and external resources, meaning it goes beyond our manual. And because it goes beyond our manual, it becomes unfamiliar to us. It's unpredictable. We don't know how to respond. We cannot control it. Then we feel safe. Change is stressful. Any changes is stressful. When our weight changes, it's stressful. Notice how subtle the change and how stressful it becomes. Every after haircut, we always check if it's okay. We always ask the people around us. But we really know that there's nothing we can do about it, because it's cut already. But we feel so like anxious and worried or concerned about it, conscious about it, because it's actually a change. No, but give it a couple of days, we're good to go. So change is stressful. Now, the thing with stress or changes is, from a diathesis stress model, it actually would trigger the development of a mental health problem. It activates illness because all human beings, we have potentiality to develop a certain psychological or mental health condition. Now, if we are experiencing elevated level of stress, then it could potentially become a psychological condition. Okay, so but we would like to emphasize that. So I'd like to outline this a bit. So we have a manual. Everything's familiar. We know how to interpret, feel, and behave about it. And when there's change, when there are changes, our manual is outdated. And because of that, we would feel stress. Changes create stress. Stress may lead to a mental health condition. But if you look at it closely, according to Pat Ogden, mental health problem is not really the problem. In my clinical experience, I don't really work on mainly on the psychological condition like anxiety, depression, among other things. Why is that? Because in my experience working with hundreds of cases already, mental health condition is actually an attempt of the soul to solve a problem. When we are trying to solve a potential futuristic problem, we call that worry. So the human mind could anticipate that possibly in the future. We feel anxious. We feel anxiety. But if you look at it closely, anxiety is telling us to prepare for it, to do something about it. Depression, from a psychodynamic perspective, for example, it's a soul grieving because we are letting go of something, maybe something of certain value to us or a part of ourselves. When we grow, we feel depressive. We feel sad because losing something is grieving. So it's not a problem. There's a need behind that. No? So, but when we feel stressful, meaning to say it goes beyond our capacity to respond, it's not in our manual. And we don't act on or take care of ourselves. Like we ignore it. Okay? We would always say, laban lang. So from a healthy functioning, like, you're doing well and your performance is consistent, you sleep well, eat well, you engage with others well. And if you keep ignoring the growing stress, then it becomes a reacting. You move to the other stage. Now, in reacting, when we are experiencing stress, we become irritable, if you notice that. We worry a lot, we procrastinate, we forget things. Sometimes we don't want to engage to others. We would like to stay at home. We will have difficulty sleeping. We are overthinking a lot. Sometimes we don't want to do things, or we have difficulty, feeling something or thinking about something, but still manageable. And we would say, laban lang. And then we would push. But still, we are not taking of the self. And if we still continue to do that, then we would move to an injured state. Okay, an injured state. So in the injured state, we are already experiencing significant functional impairment. We sleep late. We are not eating well. It's either we're not eating enough or we're eating a lot. We are always worrying. We feel some aches in our body, our shoulders, our head. We are getting sick. Uh, we then we start to question ourselves. Like, I may be this, I may be that. Then we start to criticize the self. Why am I not at my best? Why am I not submitting on time? Why am I forgetting things? Then we attack the self. I may be, we judge the self. I may be, slow learner. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy to be loved. Things like that. And still, we're not responding to the stress. We're not updating our manual. Then we move to an illness stage. In here, we develop already a clinical disorder. We can be diagnosed with a specific medical, psychological condition already. Now, if you look at it, the pain is not really a problem. It's not our enemy. The pain that we are experiencing, the distress, the discomfort we are experiencing, are the wisdom of the self telling us that something is needed to be learned, is needed to be improved. Why? Because it went outside our manual. Okay. So, when we are experiencing discomfort, inconvenience, or pain, we are actually being called to update our individual unique life manual. Mas maayo pagali ang iPhone or Android because you are always updating, because we are always updating the system, the iOS. Mas maayo pa siguro ang motor o ang sakyanan kay gipa car wash pa, gipa change oil. Or maigili ang mga cellphones, no, kay gi-recharge pa. But the self, laban lang. No? So, when we start to ignore the pain, when we start to ignore the inconvenience, it becomes discomfort. Discomfort becomes pain. Pain becomes suffering. Because the self is calling our attention to update our individual unique life manual. In other words, we are being called by the self to grow, to become a better version. So, how do we update our manual? How do we become a better version of ourselves? Number one, when we are experiencing pain, permit the self to feel. We allow the self to feel. Because the resistance will only create persistence. Whatever we deny will just become louder. So we allow ourselves to feel the pain, to feel the sadness, to feel the emotion. Because when we allow ourselves to feel in stillness, then we can listen to the wisdom it is trying to communicate to us. And as we are experiencing, as we are allowing ourselves to feel, then we practice self-compassion. We take care of ourselves. And how do we take care of ourselves? Number one, there is no point, actually, to continuously judging, criticizing, attacking the self for something that's wrong or something that's painful. We need to shift into a more loving conversation, dialogue with ourselves. Imagine imagine that your best friend or a 7-year-old girl would approach you and talk about that I'm worried, I'm anxious, or I'm sad, or I'm scared. How would you like to take care, communicate, support that best friend or little girl? The answer is that's also how you're going to talk to yourself. Then go back to basic. What do you mean by this? In times of difficulty, it is also the most important time to go back to the basics of eating well. Even if we don't have an appetite, we eat well because the body needs that. To rest, to 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 really take time to, just relax, let go of the things that could add more, connect, no? Go back to the basic, drink a lot of water, hydrate the self. And then after that, when you have permitted the self to feel and you have started to practice self-compassion and you took care of your basic needs, then you define the problem. What's really causing it? The pain, the suffering, the inconvenience. According to studies, when you write down the problem, 50% of the problem is already solved. In our research paper, in your thesis, in your dissertation, the most important thing that you can do first is to identify, and define the problem, and everything will follow. So when we know what's causing it, what's really the problem, then we identify what do you really want? What's our need? A lot of people, we are so aware of what we don't want, what we don't like, but we are not really so much aware of what we really, really want. We know what we don't want. I don't want to be this, I don't want to be treated like this, I don't want to be in this kind of situation. But we have not answered or defined what do we really want from the situation. Knowing what we want is more important than knowing what we don't want. And if you get to know that, what you really want, then you get the support. Ask for help. Ask for help. Gather your backup. Talk to a professional. Go to your guidance counselor. Talk to your friends, family. I noticed that almost all of the mental health problems are actually caused by a relationship. And it's also fixed or solved by a relationship. So having a good support system works a lot. And then lastly, create a structure, because we're updating our manual. So our needs and how we are implementing it, we would like to implement it consistently and persistently so that the manual can be updated to create familiarity, predictability, sense of control. And if you combine the three elements, you would feel safe. Now, the wisdom of the self unfolds when one is ready. Sometimes, no matter how you will educate someone or how painful their situation is, they don't, do something about it. Maybe they're not yet ready. And I would always say this, that when they're ready, it's going to be beautiful. But when are we going to be ready? When we cannot laban lang on it anymore, when it becomes very painful. Pain is a powerful propelling factor for growth. When we are in pain, we are growing. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And if you have questions or want to say something, share something, please say, chat, and our moderators are here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Enrique, for that refreshing and insightful ways and tips and insights for all of us. As Dr. Enrique has discussed, fostering mental well-being do not immediately manifest. It starts at the bottom, and at the bottom, it will always be ourselves. Mental health is not only for those diagnosed, but for all. So each one of us is as important as others, and that's what make our minds to be our own. We must also cherish our mental health. We must understand, we must be open, and this is how we insert that Our minds is our rights. It always starts with ourselves, and it can create a sense of wholeness as we love ourselves, understand our emotions and actions, and when we learn to understand ourselves better, we can identify the problem and also the solution to it. Laban lang, mo na atong permi isulti, pero at the same time, asa man jud kutob ang laban lang na. Now, now for our presentation, we are done with our speaker. Kindly use our chat box for our question and answer portion. You may now please chat any of your inquiries for our speaker, and our guidance officers shall read the questions for you, or I will read them for you, and so that our speaker may answer your questions. Dear students, if you have any questions for our speaker, clarifications, or just let's say other than clarifications but inquiries, kindly please use the chat box for the questions, and I will read them for our speaker to answer. Also, our guidance officers will monitor the chat box for any questions that will not be answered. Okay, it looks like there is no question for our speaker. Nasabtan siguro maayo sa ato ang mga participants and attendees ang ato ang webinar for today. So if others will not have any questions, maybe I can ask a question to our speaker. Is that all right, sir?
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So my question, sir, is in regards to ibutang nato people who are not yet open about sharing their mental health. How can I, for example, as a guidance counselor, let them open up to me in terms of pag-share nila nako? Is there any tips that you can actually give me, or even the parents, because we have parents also listening here?
Right. Thank you for that. That's a beautiful question, actually, because we have associates in the clinic, and they would always ask me that, because some would really stay silent for an hour, like not saying anything. And I always say that human beings are by nature storytellers, and we would like to tell our stories because it reveals the kind of identity that we have, and it allows the self to be seen. Now, one reason why we're not yet ready to share our story, because it's not yet organized inside us. We're still organizing it in a way that it can be a cohesive, understandable story for others. Arrange pa sa sulod pa. Now, and when it's not ready, I noticed that the pain is still very high. Murag, they are still, people are scared ba na if they start to talk about it, murag, basin og mo buto, or they would be overwhelmed. So they're keeping it because they don't want to get overwhelmed. It's like popping a balloon ba. So my suggestion always is never to force that. and make this person feel that you are sharing a safe space. You give this individual the safe space to be unconditionally accepted in silence and in pain. And when they start to feel safe in that space that the two of you created, they will start to open up. And that's how we make them talk.
Thank you so much, sir, for that very wonderful tip for me, of course, as a guidance, because I am still also working in terms of my counseling skills. Would there be, like this, sir, would there be other questions from our participants? Of course, our students. Na ba may question para kang sir? Inquiries about mental health. Okay, because sir is a professional. This is your time to shine na mag-ask mo regards about your mental health or anything na gusto lang siya ninyo i-ask ka.
My question sa chat here, um can I read the question? And
Oh,
yeah,
yes, sir.
and then the question goes like this: na, is there a way you can get rid of depression? An easy way to get rid of depression? Um, the 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 dep we cannot get. My approach is I don't get rid of the depression. Dili nako wag tangon ang depression. I mean, I don't work on that ba. I'd like to work on what's causing the depression. Because the depression is a sign that something is not working anymore, that you'd like to let go, or you lost someone or something, and you'd like to kanang grieve on this slowly, so we can honor this. So my suggestion is, how do we work on depression? First is allow the self to feel the loss, and then take care of self and ask what's causing it and what do you really need. But to be honest, no, there is no easy way, because it's a process, and it's a beautiful process of growing, of becoming a better version of ourselves. So walay quick fix.
Okay, someone has raised his hand. If there are questions, please chat it inside the chat box.
There is a direct
Yes,
message
sir.
saying na unsa mga messages that you hope people will take away from today's talk sa Our Mind, Our Rights. na ako'y perminin ako i-share ba niya. I love this line. It's actually from Jordan Peterson, sa katong yung book nga 12 Antidotes to Chaos. Yeah. Ingon siya ba nga kung masakit daw ang ato ang iro, ato ang pet, kay we would be in panic and we would like look for all possibilities to take care of that pet. If our friend gets sick, kay we will take care of that friend. If our family, a loved one gets sick, we will take care of that. But if we get sick, we said, later na, laban lang. Ana. But why? Why do we do this? Actually, it's very linked to how we value ourselves. Our taking care of the self has a lot to do with how we feel about ourselves. If our pets, our loved ones, our friends are important, I'd like to tell you that you are far, 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 or equally important too. Now, sometimes we don't really see the worth of ourselves, no? And mga ta dili ta worthy and all, dili ta capable. But unsa may basis nimo ana that dili ka worthy, dili ka capable? Because someone said so? Because you made a mistake, you failed? But we all do make a mistake. We will all fail, to be honest. We will make a lot of mistakes. We will fail a lot of times. Some people will not like us, and some people will also love us. No, but one mistake or a couple mistake, a couple failure, some people won't like us. Doesn't mean that we are not worthy. We're not lovable. We're not capable. So challenge that. Labanan na to ato ang self. We are going to be the advocates and lawyers of ourselves. Dili na to like mo surrender. Yeah. Di man ko lovable. So laban sa self. That's what I would like you to take away from this talk, that this is yourself, this is your mind, and it is your God-given right to protect, promote, defend, develop the self. And no one has the right to take that away from you.
Hello, sir.
Yeah,
Good
go ahead.
morning. I am also a guidance officer sa tertiary nga department, sir. So I would like to ask for like tips gani, sir, sa especially if kanang sa guidance or sa counseling nga part, sir. How unsay tip nimo? How do you like kanang cope gani, sir, nga dili ka mo-overwhelm sa emotions pod nga mahatag sa imuhang client sa imuha? Kaya I think it's very important pod sa part sa guidance officers or sa counselors pod na how they cope or how they deal with it nga dili nila ma-absorb ang ingon ana gani nga energy, sir, especially pod sa mga kanang ganahan pod nga mo pursue pod sa kanang psychologist and sa guidance counselors nga path. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Right. Kaning Miss Ralios, number one, normal jud na siya, no? I remember ba katong first few months na ako nga nag-function ko as a clinician. First client na ko kay trauma, and after ato kay 1 week ko galubog sa amoa. Yeah. And then kasi ko gunahuna kay my mentor ba kay could see 7, 10 even 10 clients a day ba. Yun sa na niya. I'd like to go back to 2 points and I'd like to share with you. And you know what? Before answering that, you know what? You can come to the clinic ba, and then let's talk about things, share experiences, strategies. Let's grow together. Now, going back, because we need clinical supervisors. I had my mentors. Would help me to grow. We need that. Now, to answer your question, 2 points that I've learned from my experience and mentors. Number one is that aside from boundaries, there's also emotional, psychological boundaries that make sure na dili ka mo merge from your session, that you are empathizing and not sympathizing, that you are always listening with empathy, not taking it in. Pero we're human beings. We're human beings. And to be honest, people who are in this field kay very, very love to take care of others. boundaries, dili man kay naka-answer. But night, kuyog dapat ana. I'm not, if you have read transactional analysis, there are 3 ego states there, no? The self can be an adult, taking, very objective, very informative, factual, kayon na an adult ego state. The other one is a child ego state, very child, playful and all, or very obedient. And the last one is a parent, a critical parent and a nurturing parent. Ang critical kay kanam nang don't do this, don't do that. Ang nurturing kay I have a question. When you are in a session, what is your ego state? Are you a parent? Are you an adult? Are you a child? In my opinion, although mo shift man ta og ego state, but what helped me to not be consumed by emotion is to majority of the time in the session, my ego state is an adult. I take facts, I listen to it, but this takes practice. And I also would like to emphasize that when these things happen, when it triggers us, it means that we are also to submit ourselves to our therapists, mentors. Kay continuous man nga to ang growth pod, we need to heal to become a better healer. It's okay. Come to the clinic, let's talk about cases.
Pero thank you so much, sir. Kay na-curious ko kay kato lagi nga like some people or like katong mga practice na jud kaayo nga therapists and counselors kay like they can go 10 gani jud or like whole day gid nga in ana and
No.
I want to learn pod and to grow pod sa kaning field. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Mentor, get a mentor. A supervisor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Enrique. Is there other questions from our students na sad? Ani na po sa itong mga estudyante? Naabay question atong students?
Na yung mga direct questions diri actually.
Naa sir, sige sir,
Ah.
sa imuha jud tanan.
Sometimes we can't find a word to say when opening up, or how do we deal with that a person trying to open up. We cannot find a word to open up. What every story has a middle, beginning, and end. So what helps also is you state the how it begins. No. You state what's difficult, what you need. No. Ana. Murag, we start with a word and then one word at a time, one word at a time, one word at a time, one word at a time. You just find one word like hi or I, and then need help, or can you listen to me? One word at a time. Take your time. It's okay. No rush. When you're ready, you'll be ready. Take your time. There's another question here. How do we boost someone's feeling of self-worth, or even yourself? Our worth. What's really self-worth? The definition of self-worth is the evaluation of the self. So how do we evaluate ourselves? No. So kumingon ta, for example, tangaan ako ay that's a self-evaluation. Or di man ko lovable, that's a self-evaluation. Or di man kayo ko guwapo pero pwede na, that's a self-evaluation. No. Now I'd like to challenge the self-evaluation. How man, no? Number one, if you don't like the self-evaluation, it means that dili siya consistent on how you really see yourself. Meaning, the negative self-evaluation is coming from someone. This is called psychological injunction. It's really coming from other person. no, but it pierced through you because maybe close mo. And then kay if consistent man gud ang self-evaluation and even the critical negative self-talk ba, it feels like an appreciation, di ba? Kung consistent siya sa imuhang how you really view yourself, it would feel like an appreciation. Pero if dili gali, then murag na ay feeling, yeah, murag, I don't like this. It means dili siya consistent. So we would like to challenge that. Number one, what made you say that? What's the basis? Later on, the what will become who said that? Who said that? And then here's a shift, a powerful shift. If you don't like that evaluation of the self or the negative self-talk, what would you like to say about it? Like, what's your opinion about it? Because that's not yours, man. But what would you like to say about it? What's your opinion? Do you agree? And if you agree, like, yeah, ko, would you like to change that? And how would you like to change that? What changes would you like to do to change that? Now, here, what are your thoughts on saying habits can either make or break you? Yeah, actually, habits can actually make or break you because there are healthy habits and there are maladaptive habits. No, it can make or break you. So here's a framework to make sure. Now, asking things, evaluating things, whether it's right, wrong, good, bad, will never be answered because it's relative and subjective. Lisod kaiba is a moral question, and yourself is not always a moral question. But try to ask yourself: is what I'm doing beneficial or disadvantage? And answer that, and uh, I'm very confident it will guide you reaching a more advantage, self-beneficial decision. Ah, another one, I'm not so sure. It says that if you want to help someone, diba, there are times that they don't listen. So how do I make them listen? Natoy quote ba that my professor before would always tell me. How many psychologists would it take to switch on a light bulb? Then the answer is that depends if the light bulb would like to be switched on. No, we cannot help a person who's not yet ready to be helped. So we wait. And if you are a mental health professional, and even if not, I have a question on that, a reflective question. Why is that there is this sort of compulsion-like or pressure to be a rescuer to this person who doesn't want to be helped yet? No. Another one is maybe this person does not really need help. So ayun lang sa. Is writing another way of coping? Yes, write your feeling, express. If you're lost and everything inside you is screaming, how can you find yourself? You're not lost. But I would like, and how can you find yourself? I'd like you to listen to yourself. What is the self saying? What is the message of the self? What is it trying to tell you? The self is, full of wisdom.
Okay, is there any other questions from our participants? You can direct message Sir Enrique. For example, if you have any questions. Okay. Murag, wala na yung question, sir. Ang question ani siguro, sir, moabot na ni ending. Now, thank you so much, Dr. Enrique, for answering the queries of our USPNs. Now, may I present this certificate of appreciation for our research speaker. So this certificate of appreciation is proudly presented to Dr. Enrique Belisario II for extending his time and sharing his knowledge during the webinar entitled Our Minds, Our Rights, Fostering a Culture of Mental Wellness in celebration of Mental Health Awareness Month, given this 18th day of October 2023 at the University of Southern Philippines Foundation, signed by our Director of the Guidance and Testing Service Center, Dr. Elita L. Cui, signed also by the Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Ernesto L. Alolor, and the Assistant to the Vice President for Academic Support, Mr. Charles Roy P. Bagio. Congratulations and thank you so much, Dr. Enrique, for your time and knowledge given to us today.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a wonderful.
Sure.
Thank you, Doc Kwe. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Now, to conclude this webinar of ours, allow us to show a short closing remarks from our Director of the Students Affairs Services and also the Assistant to the Vice President for Academic Support, Mr. Charles Roy P. Bagio.
To our University President, Attorney Paulino Yabao, our Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Ernesto L. Alor, our Guidance and Testing Services Director, Dr. Elita Cui, our esteemed resource person, Dr. Enrique Felisario II, guidance officers, students, USPF employees, parents, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant day to you. Today's mental health webinar entitled Our Minds, Our Rights, Fostering a Culture of Mental Wellness digs into the mental health law, which is the legal basis for calling mental health as our right and for the need to create a culture of mental wellness. The human being is one complicated being, a union of body and spirit, who is an individual and a social being. Aside from merely discussing individual struggles, problems, and interventions, the word culture in our webinar title highlights the social element of the causes, interventions, and keeping of our mental well being. Feeling alone in one's mental health struggles makes one feel more alienated and weak. But if all these efforts to maintain, promote, and address mental health and its issues, one feels the strength of the community supporting him or her, and a strong support system makes things a whole lot better. As it is said, alone we can do little, but together we can do a lot more. The stigma, the accessibility of mental health institutions, mental health programs, and the prevailing social cultural conditions, developing a mental wellness culture, and the very important and primary support system, which is the family, all contribute to the whole gamut of mental well being, and they are all part of the social element of a person's existence. This webinar is then a call for the strengthening of the social factor at the roots, at the protection, and in addressing mental health rights and well-being. Developing empathy on what people with mental health issues are going through is needed. We would like to thank the Guidance and Testing Center, the University Administration, and our resource person, Dr. Enrique Felisario II, for making possible this morning's webinar. We also would like to thank everyone who are here joining this webinar. Thank you for sparing some of your time to be here. And finally, we would like to thank our Lord God Almighty, who is the source of all help and blessings. In last Sunday's Mass reading, we are reminded by St. Paul in his letter to the Philippians that I can do all things through him who strengthens me. We all need strength and wisdom to be able to do things right and well according to the will of God. Let us call upon God for strength and guidance in this endeavor and call on our family, friends, and anybody who cares to lend some help. May you also give your commitment to be agents for the creation of a culture of mental wellness at home, in school, and everywhere, and help create the right attitude and habits. Strengthen your social, emotional, and spiritual foundation and support. We pray for it and we will work on it. Again, thank you and God bless us all.
Thank you so much, Sir Charles, for your closing remarks. Now, before we end our program, I would like to remind everyone to help us evaluate our webinar for today. The link is provided in the chat box sent by Mom Shireen, and this will only be available until 2 p.m. today. So no evaluation, no attendance slip for the tertiary students, no evaluation, no e-certificate for our attendees and participants. Again, please use your email account from USPF or use your Gmail accounts so that we may send your e-certificates. Again, the link for the evaluation is at the chat box. Kindly see our chat box for the information. Thank you so much for joining us on this webinar. Here are also our activities. The Guidance and Testing Service Center activities for October 2023, which is today we have our plenary. And then for our intramural days, the whole week, we will also be creating a booth in which the booth is called Self-Care Hub, and the location is near the beach volleyball court in front of the Oscar Teresa building. We have arts and crafts, hopscotch, freedom wall, knockdown, jackstone, pickup sticks, Jenga blocks, photo booth, a story booth with the guidance counselors. Those are our activities for our booth. We hope that you may also join our Zumba activity, especially our employees, kanang mga teacher na tura, sayaw-sayaw naman, galaw-galaw. So please join our Zumba activity for October 27 at the lobby of the Agustin Herreza Hall, 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. So I hope everyone you can screenshot our activities so you may send it to your friends if you want to join. We also have prizes for our self-care hub, so kindly join if you want to win our prize. Also, please do not forget to give us a like and please follow our Guidance and Testing Service Center Facebook page. We also have our YouTube account. And for those who would like to rewatch or would like to watch, for those who have not entered our Zoom, you may choose to go to our YouTube account so that you may see this program. Thank you so much. So once again, usa ka maayong buntag sa atong tanan. I am your host, Ms. Rizalyn Pansoy from the Elementary Guidance, leaving a short message. Mental health problems don't define who you are. They are something you experience. You walk in the rain and you feel the rain, but you are not the rain. Thank you so much, everyone. Now let us have our loyalty song.
To be with you, our quest for knowledge, our quest for truth.
Once again, maayong buntag to all our attendees. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar. I hope you enjoyed and learned something. I am your host, Ms. Rosaline Pansoy, and please do not forget to attend to our activities. We have here our self-care hub for the next week, intramural days. Thank you so much. And please do not forget to answer the evaluation form at your chat box. So you may just click the link answer so that you will have your e-certificate. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a great morning and happy lunch to those who will be having their lunch.